thank you very much for being with us today. This is Decoding the Process, and this is Martha Mora. I'm here with you today with a very special person. And of course, this week we have been celebrating the fathers, and we are here all about manhood. We want to understand what are these men and what is a man created to be, and the authenticity behind what God saw in a man. Because many a times we think that being a man is just having good cars, having the best finances, and I mean, all those things make a man. But what is more to that about being a man, of course, and even as we delve into relationships and everything, who is this kind of man who is ready, and what does he need to look at as he prepares to enter relationships? So I want to welcome my guest today, a very amazing person, one who is a very big champion of authenticity, and I know he's also written so many books, and one of them is on authentic manhood, and you sure need to get that copy for yourself as a man, and even for you as a lady, get it for your man, and you'll be very, very much blessed. Karibu sana Boniface.
Thank you, Martha.
Yes.
It's good to be here.
Asante.
Yeah.
We are very much honored for your presence. I have waited for this day for so long, and I'm sure we are going to be blessed. I'd love you to just say something about yourself before we delve into the discussion.
All right. I think I'll begin by saying my names. I think that's a good place to start. Boniface Nganga is my name. Married. I think that's an important detail to a woman. Nowadays, people marry all sorts of things.
Yeah,
so
true.
I'm married to a female entity of the created order.
Yeah.
And I'm a father of
important.
three. Yeah, I'm a father of three. 2 boys and 1 girl. And my greatest passion is to inspire people to live authentic lives. Other than that, I'm also very passionate about 3 things, which I think define a solid life. Number 1, maturity. Number 2, relationships. Number 3, leadership. So those are the 3 anchors that drive my passion in life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amesema,
Yeah.
maturity,
Yes.
relationships, and leadership. And
yes.
I believe those things are very, very important for a whole and, full life to be lived. So as we have talked about manhood, and of course, we continue to wish you a very good Father's Day. And of course, all the men, at some point, maybe you don't have a biological child, but you have been a father to many other people in your life. We wish you a very, very happy Father's Day from Wema TV and from us, Decoding the Process. So let's get straight to what we were to discuss today.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the entities of manhood? What is this kind of authentic man, this person who God created to actually represent him as a leader? And of course, the most important tenets of this man who is even preparing to be in a relationship.
Okay. The first thing that I want to tell people that are watching us is being a male and being a man are 2 very different things. God created the male, but the male must make a decision to become a man. And when you study 1 Corinthians 13, it gives you the process. And I love what you're calling your show, Decoding the Process, because Paul gives us a process into masculinity. He says, when I was a child, I thought as a child, I reasoned as a child, and I understood as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish ways. So masculinity, by definition, is the ability to put away childishness and to put on Christ-likeness. When you put away childishness and you put on Christ-likeness, now you're beginning to move from maleness into manhood. Now, that putting away is a very deliberate process because it's not accidental. It doesn't happen when you buy a car or when you marry a woman or even when you go to university. You can have a PhD and still be a boy because there is a transition you've never made. Now, that transition is a maturity transition. So, a man is a male that has killed the boy in him. In other words, has addressed the immaturity issues, insecurity issues, and irresponsibility issues, because those are the 3 things that make males not to become men. Number 1, I talked about immaturity, the ability to think and operate like a child. And one of the things you notice about children are very selfish, which means if you're going to become a man, you've got to address your selfishness. Number 2, children are very proud. Sometimes they think they know everything. If you're going to become a man, you've got to address your pride. To the extent that you kill your pride, it is to that same extent you scale the mountain of masculinity. And then number 3, I talked about immaturity, irresponsibility, and I'm forgetting the other. But basically what we're talking about is you have got to be able to journey from immaturity to maturity for you to journey from maleness to manhood. So 1 Corinthians 13 gives us a picture of what a man is about.
Wow.
And that's maturity.
Yes, so basically you're trying to say that a man is not a boy.
Yes.
A boy has to kill the immaturity, and I love the two functions, or rather the two examples you've given, the selfishness and the pride. And I think so many men don't really know they haven't killed their boyness, childishness. I mean, it's very much visible in so many people that are not intentional about really growing from being a boy and becoming a man. Because what I'm hearing from you, it's something that really has to be intentional.
It is deliberate,
Yes. So basically, we can now delve into now. Most of these men actually want to get into relationships.
Yes.
And they want to, and they are aspiring great relationships. I know no one wants to do an unsuccessful thing. So I would want you to probably tell us as we talk about the maturity, how do we say a man is now mature and prepared for relationships?
That's an amazing question. And for two reasons. Because a lot of men fear relationships because they fear themselves. It's not the relationship they fear. They fear that they don't have what it takes to succeed in a relationship. And how does a man get prepared for relationship? The book of Genesis gives us a very wonderful template of how that works out. Number one, God says it is not good for the man to be alone. He doesn't say it's not good for the man to be lonely. In other words, one of the signs that a man has not matured into masculinity is when he begins thinking that a relationship is the solution to his loneliness. A relationship is not a solution to loneliness. If you are lonely as a man and you get into a relationship, you will only be a married man that is lonely. So you've got to work yourself to a place where you are not lonely. You're not desperate as a man to get into a relationship to prove a point, but you're getting in a relationship because you've matured to a place where you know love is about giving and serving, not getting and massaging your ego. It is about giving and serving. Now, when you look at Genesis, there are three qualities you see about the man that is ready for relationships. Number one, a spiritually conscious man. In other words, he does not allow his inner needs to be met by an external relationship. He looks for his inner needs to be met by the vertical relationship, his relationship with God. So a man gets ready for relationship by working on his spirit man, developing a relationship with God. When a man doesn't have a relationship with God, he doesn't have value to bring into a relationship. He will become a liability in a relationship. He will not be able to bring what is substance in a relationship. Number two thing that shows that a man is ready for a relationship is God gives man principles to live by. A man that doesn't have principles that guides how he lives life, how he makes decisions, how he interacts with the world, is a man that is a crisis looking for a place to happen. And what principles do? They give you the ability to govern yourself. Because before you can get into a relationship where you'll be the leader, you've got to be able to govern yourself. And you cannot govern yourself if you don't subscribe to certain principles. Let me give you a very simple principle, the principle of integrity. Any man that does not subscribe to that principle will only bring pain when he gets into a relationship. Second principle, the principle of responsibility, the ability to take charge and lead and make decisions that are wise. Not just decisions, but decisions that are wise. Any man that does not subscribe to the principle of responsibility will get into a relationship to be mothered by the girlfriend and not to be the leader in that relationship. So a man must have principles that govern how he lives his life. So we talked about spiritual consciousness. Two, we talked about principles. Number three, he's got to have a vision and a purpose for his life. Why is this important? The first definition we are given about a woman is not a lover, is a helper.
True.
Any woman that you get into a relationship that you love but cannot help in your vision will not be an asset in your life. So a man must define his direction. Where am I going in life? Now, this is something I want ladies to understand. When a guy shows interest in you, the first question should not be, do you love me? The first question should be, where are you going? your vision, your direction, your sense of purpose in life. So that by the time you're getting into a relationship, now she's coming as a partner in purpose, not just a sexual fire extinguisher for your emotions, as it were. Because a lot of relationships are built around emotions, and emotions are very fragile. One day they're up, the other day they're down. You've got to build your relationship on something more than something that fluctuates. And that is spiritual consciousness, 2 principles, 3 purpose. Any man that does not have those 3 things intact is not ready for a relationship.
True, very true. And we always say here that marriage is not just a reward, it is a responsibility. And you can tell clearly, and he has said it very well, that God did not create a partner, he created a helper. Meaning the sole responsibility of this woman being in your life and this man is to pursue a designated purpose. So it's very important, as is mentioned, the spiritual consciousness, because you can imagine there's a lot that happens in the spiritual realm. And if somebody is not sensitive enough to really be able to help you and lead you, things are going to really go wrong. So I really love those 3 basic things. And I think there's something interesting you said earlier on when you were just here and having a talk, and I would love you to give us your personal story. I mean, it was very, very unique. You know, somebody, just in a nutshell, he said he married in a very young age. Of course, dated one lady in her life. I mean, how many have you dated? And people always champion this statement: you have to kiss many frogs before you settle down. I mean, those things. I mean, in light of your experience and probably just a small light of how you are able to, because for me, I can tell he is a successful man in what he does and even in his marriage. So I think, and I know, he will be able to give us a story that is helpful.
You know, I think the first thing is to have a very clear vision about where you're going. Now, when you know where you're going, you will know who can fit in that journey. But when you're not clear about your direction in life, then relationships become a place of experimenting. And the less clear you are about where your direction is headed, then the more you keep experimenting. Is this Esther? Is it Susan? Is it, you know, because you are cherry picking people based on your emotions and not based on your direction. Now, when your direction is very clear, one of the things that I was very fortunate to have is I discovered my assignment very early in life. In fact, by the time I was 16, I knew what my life is about. I knew where my life is supposed to go. And I knew I cannot just have anybody on the bandwagon to where I am going. I have to have very clear parameters that show me this person can take this journey with me. So when I was looking for a spouse or a lady to settle down with, for me, it was not about hips, lips, and fingertips. It was about compatibility with my assignment. So any person that I related with, any lady that I related with, the question was, can she fit into where I am going with my life as a man? And using that as a sieve allowed me to know very quickly who was not supposed to be part of my assignment. So when, of course, I met my beautiful wife when I think I was about 20, and we became friends. We didn't even date, you know, in the sense of dating as it's done nowadays. We became friends, and our relationship and friendship was built around our passion for serving God and our passion for ministry. So as that friendship built on the wheels of purpose, then we began to realize, wow, we have so much in common. So our commonness did not begin with common emotions. It started with a common sense of purpose. And this is what I want to encourage people to do. Discover what your life is about so clearly, and then run so fast about it. The person who catches up with you as you're running towards it, that's the person that belongs to your destiny. But if you experiment with emotions, with looks, and all these other things, they are erratic. They will mislead you. Relationships are so deep, you cannot use external parameters to determine who belongs in your life. You've got to use a deeper parameter. And the most accurate parameter for relationships is destiny.
And launch into destiny, and the right people will remain, the wrong people will automatically fall off. And of course, even when you go on with relationships and marriage, you realize they can only be sustained as you continue pursuing purpose. Because if it's all about emotions and everything, they're short term. And sometimes the graph is maybe zigzag, you know, up and down, not because things are bad, but emotionally we can't sustain the highness all through, and we are human. So if purpose is there, it will always cover up for every other thing and make it meaningful more than any other thing. So as we talk about men, what are some of the things you think men have failed naturally, especially for young men who are trying to date? What are some of the things you can point out and say, these ones, I think men have lost it lately, and I think we can also try and make it, you know, much better in how we date, how we, you know, for instance, just how we were conversing, many men are feeling like they are not ready, they want to build castles before they settle down, and they're waiting for the perfect time. What would you tell many young men out there who are aspiring relationships, but they are discouraged and they feel like they're not ready and they want to build this, but they just want to take their time doing things that they feel they need to do?
I think the first thing that I would say is, the most important thing for a man is not to discover the woman he loves, is to discover the unreleased man in him. Because the more you discover the man God created you to be, the more accurate your decisions will become in life. A lot of what is disturbing men nowadays is because they live by a script of masculinity that is inaccurate. It is not based on facts, it's not based on scriptures, and it's not based on a sustainable model of significance and success. For example, a lot of what most men look at relationships for, they look at relationships as a place for ventilating their emotions. But the purpose of a relationship is not to calm down your emotions. The purpose of a relationship is to help you to build a destiny. Now, when you begin to discover the man God created you to be, then your relationship philosophy will not be based on what culture sells to you. It will be based on what scripture talks about. Now, when you look at marriage, one of the things that I want to encourage men to do is to discover what was God's intent for marriage. Because once you discover the intention of God, then how you engage in it is defined by that intention of God. Now, Ephesians 5 talks about love your wives' husbands as Christ loved the church. So when you look at marriage, marriage is the only institution that is supposed to mirror how God loved his church. In other words, God is inviting me as a man to model love to another human being the way he modeled love to me. Now, you see, when you define relationship based on that parameter, it changes everything, because marriage is not just an institution for breeding children. It's an institution for modeling the purpose of God in redeeming humanity back to himself. So when a man discovers that, then he discovers that the reason God will give me a woman is not so that I can flout and have a trophy that I can go showing everyone. It is so that I can model his redemptive purpose in a marriage context. That's why a man that is easily offended cannot run a marriage. Why? God loves us when we were sinners. And this is why when God is giving you a marriage partner as a man, he does not give you a finished product. He gives you a raw material so that you can practice on that lady what God practiced on humanity. The redemption story is what God gives a man the opportunity to play out. And when a man discovers that, then his script of relationships becomes an empowered script and a script that is almost fail-proof.
I think I'm hearing something very, very deep from you. And what I can allude from that is basically, it seems marriage is future-based compared to how we see it. When God is preparing us for eternity, he is using marriage to refine us, to become better people, to actually become more like him. Because if he's teaching men to love the wife like Christ did,
loves the church,
he's developing your spirit to actually become more like Christ.
Your character.
And your character to become more like Christ. So I mean, if people really understand actually what marriage is meant for, one, they will not rush for it like they do, and they will carefully consider what they are doing. Because many people are just in love with the idea of love, not in love with the idea of God's orientation of what marriage is. So I mean, we're trying to just bring out purpose between, of course, the functionality of man and, of course, now the part and the role he plays, and how does he prepare for these things. Because we might focus on what marriage is, but let me tell you, the best thing is about, right now you're still single, what can you do about it? Prepare. That is the best way to spend this time. So I mean, as we wrap up, I would love you to speak your heart out to these men and tell them, this is one thing I know I would really love to speak to men too. And I would also, just a general aspect of bringing out the manhood from this boy child.
I'll say two things probably about becoming a real man. And I'll say you've got to discover that becoming a man is more a responsibility than age. You have got to decide to anchor your life on responsibility based on the scriptures, not based on what society says, not based on what your peers say. You have got to go back to your manufacturer and say, what did you define responsibility as? And the definition of responsibility according to God is two things. Number one, becoming more like him in every way of your life as a man. Your thoughts, your word, your character, your behavior, everything about your life must begin to mirror your God in whose image you're created after. Then number two, you've got to discover, what are you here to do? What is your destiny? If you don't discover what you're here to do, you will spend your life grinding the mills, running the rat race, which even if you win, you will still be a rat. You'll not be a man by winning the rat race. So discover what it is that God has created you to do and engage. Don't wait for a perfect day to engage. Engage today, because when you discover your character, responsibility in God, and your responsibility to pursue your destiny, I think in many ways, many things will begin to fall in place in your life as a man. But when you don't have those two things accurately working together in partnership, then you have a long way to go as a man.
Wow, we've had so much to really take in today. I mean, all you guys have to share this out and make sure every man in your circle actually reaches it out. And even for us women, because we need to know which man is ready, which kind of person do I invest in, and how do I even help them? Because when you understand what they are called for, you begin to become an effective helper in their lives. So it's very important for you to really prepare yourselves, continue learning and growing, continue, I mean, connecting with this creator who will help you become the best version of yourself. And as we've mentioned all those things, most importantly, we've said that manhood is all about growing from that boy to become the real man, the intentional journey for you to grow into becoming a real man. That was it for today, and we are so grateful that you are able to join us. We are always enthralled by everything and all the sharings you give us and every kind of conversations we've had with you. And we call on to you to keep on working with us and listening to us, for there is so much. And I believe next week we are here to continue the same conversation as we now go to the next level. How and what is the role of this man in a relationship and even in marriage? Thank you for being with us. Wema TV on all social media platforms.